talking about seeing how it goes, talking about seeing, we changed the tone to observation. And I consider myself a very observational person. I enjoy watching the little nuances that go on around me, whether it's at a restaurant, out in public, watching the rain as it hit the leaves right now. I find, as I've said before, observation is my anchor. Like, I use it to come back into the present, whether that's visually or audio or taste, smell, whatever sense it may be. There's a level of observation that I use to come back into the present. And something that I observed this week that I thought was super cool was I ran to the stadium, which is about almost 3 miles, and then I'll work out and then I run back. It's a nice little setup. And on the run back, it was like such a nice day. And on the run back, at a certain point, a dad and his daughter had passed me on a bike. And the daughter was riding in the front. She wasn't old enough yet to quite, ride her own bike. So she was sitting on this bike that the dad was steering. And they went ahead of me and didn't think much of it, whatever. And then I get, another mile down the road, and they're standing on top of one of the bridges. You pass 2 bridges to get to the field. And the second bridge on the way back to my house, it goes over train tracks right by the metro or the train station. And the dad sitting there showing his daughter, like how the trains work or where they're headed or whatever it may be. But you could see the amazement in her eyes in the way that her dad was like explaining this thing that she had no idea what it was or how it worked previously, and was now coming to the realization of like, oh, this is a train. That's how it moves. They're holding things or people or whatever. And it was cool to observe that as I run by, just like the look of astonishment in her face and the purity of love that is in that relationship between, parent and child. And I think it's always, I always feel like there's a certain type of love in the cross, between like son and mother and then daughter and father, because it's kind of how you learn to accept love and receive love, specifically from the opposite sex. So in the instance of that little girl, she'll grow up, the way I believe, she might grow up to interpret love in the way that her dad showed her love. And that little moment right there of explaining how the trains work and the patience that he shows when he's doing something like that, she'll carry with her the rest of her life. And that might be why when you have kids, a lot of people say that things slow down. You learn a lot about yourself, but in that moment, it was just so cool to watch how the purity of the love that was there and like all that was existing right there was that moment for those two. And I just got to be a part of it and run by and watch how cool the daughter thought it was. That was one of my favorite like observations of the week as I navigate around the city or whatever it may be. The other thing, actually maybe you can see it behind me. I don't know, but I noticed that I oddly enough stacked all of the lotion, face lotion, deodorant, whatever. I stacked it in like height order, and I did that without even like noticing. And the other day I woke up and looked at it and I was like, huh, it's kind of cool. So it's the little things that bring me back into the present and that level of observation. Something I've observed internally, as I felt like I've been on the precipice of closing like a chapter, some chapter, and I don't know what it is, and I felt that way for a couple weeks now, and I'm like, man, I'm close to something. I don't know what it is, and you kind of just I leave myself open to whatever it may be, and I've come to realize that I have closed a chapter in myself that is reliant upon having secondary plans or contingent plans. Like I come to realize that I've always lived in a space of, well, if this doesn't work out, I have this other thing set up for me. And I've done that. I've done that as a safety mechanism to make sure that I'm not left empty-handed. It's a self-preservation technique that I've used for myself subconsciously probably my whole life. And the other day I ran into a scenario where I felt this evolution closing. And you can, choose to believe in spirituality, whatever it may be, but there's a certain point in our lives where it's referred to as like your Saturn is returning. And it happens around the age that I'm at right now, which is 27 to like 30, 31, 32. It happens different for everybody. But your Saturn returning is much of, it turns a lot towards inward exploration of yourself. And especially as the Saturn begins to return, I think that's why I felt like this path was closing, or this circle was closing in some way. My Saturn's returning, and so because of that, I'm starting to close up old habits or tendencies that might have lived in my subconscious for so long, the first third of my life. And I was unaware of what it was. And then I ran into this scenario the other day where I was kind of not forced, but I recognized that there was a certain action I had to take in order to close this circle. This circle, yeah. And I took that action, and as soon as I took the action, it was the closing of an old relationship. As soon as I took that action, and what it was cutting off a contingent plan. And I didn't realize what the circle was that was taking place, but it was the ending of needing contingent plans. It was the ending of me needing the self-preservation of, if this doesn't work out, at least I have this. And what that felt like for me immediately after has been a sense of like openness and freedom and a feeling of like my energetic lines in my body, whether they're meridian lines in my body being very clean and open. And it actually took place the other day during a meditation that I was doing in the steam room where I was just, closing my eyes and breathing and kind of just see what happens. And immediately I was just thrown into this like very somatic feeling in my body. And it was specifically related to my solar plexus. And recently something that I've been looking into is human design. And human design has to do with where you're born, when you're born, and maybe something else, but specifically where you're born and when you're born. And there's a human design that's kind of already written, it is already written for you, that's unique to everybody. And yeah, there's buckets that people are thrown into, but I had never looked into mine. So as I look into this human design, I see that a lot of the things I hold on to are in my solar plexus. And interestingly enough, when I met Thea, who's the somatic practitioner that I worked with in Bali, I had never gone through somatic body work before. And she noticed that a lot of the things I was holding on to, or a lot of my tension was in my solar plexus. Of course, I was unable to relate that to my human design. And now we fast forward to a few days ago when I'm in this steam room and I'm meditating, and it felt like there was a light shining through my solar plexus. Like bright, super bright through my solar plexus. And it was never like I navigated the meditation towards there. It was just as soon as I closed my eyes, boom, my solar plexus was like open. And I was doing this before the game, so I had to go. I did like 10 minutes. And I get done, and I could have sat there for hours. It was one of the most unique feelings I've ever felt. I've never felt a bodily sensation or somatic sensation in that way during a meditation, even during somatic work, like where it's specific to there. It was just like, I think whatever had been closing in that circle or the Saturn returning, which was the need for contingent plans, was working through me, like it was working through my energetic lines. And specifically showing itself as it through the solar plexus. And I walked out of there just feeling like, whoa, that was an intense experience of visuals and feeling. And that actually happened before I took the action to close this relationship that held a contingent plan inside of it. Um, and it's been a feeling of like, that's why 100% that's why I woke up today in this creative pocket of wholeness, of like warmth inside. And it starts with that inward looking, and just the recognition of like, ooh, something feels like it's coming to a close here. That's where it started. I had no idea what it was. Could have been anything. And then as I start to work through it, I start to I stay with my routines or my patterns in terms of the breathing and whatever it may be. I always do some solar plexus work on myself as I breathe. And it just so happened that singular time the other day, I felt it like light exploding through the solar plexus. And my energy lines felt super clean afterwards. And I mentioned this in a meditation that I had guided yesterday. I put it on Instagram and YouTube. One of the things that I've really been noticing as I sit down to meditate or breathe, and that I've become very aware of, is kind of the frequency that surrounds my body. And I specifically feel it in my shoulders, or on the outside of my shoulders. And, there's times where I'll meditate in the morning or whenever, and they're inherently very like slow. And then there's times, especially after I'm done working for recording videos or editing or putting things on the school community, whatever it may be, that I'm like, oh, I need to sit down and, breathe for like 5, 10, 15 minutes. And in those moments, I sit down and I can feel on the outside of my shoulders, the frequency is very erratic and very fast. And it's like a padding, like, and it's interesting now that I've obtained and worked for the ability to be able to, I can feel it slow down. And inherently that's what people feel when they meditate, is like their whole body energy vibration just slowing down, similar to the pace of nature. But for me, it's become more tangible in that I can feel it. I can feel it on the outside of my shoulders, and I can feel it slowing down, especially, after like 10 minutes. And we go back to that meditation that was in the steam room. And I mean, the vibrational pattern I was feeling around my shoulders at that moment was essentially like zero. You become very close or attuned to the pace of nature in that moment. And it's been, I guess that circle has closed out now. At least I believe it has. I think it has. And I'm feeling the other side of it. And I'm very much someone, through my human design, and it aligns with what I believe about myself, is that I'm someone who, I initiate things. I initiate the action. I'm all about the movement, the forward movement. And I recognized that to close this circle, there had to be an action taken. It wasn't just going to, it would present itself to me organically. And then it's about my openness to making the decision, or my openness to listening rather, and being like, oh, now is the time. Okay, no hesitation, go and do it. And that's what happened. And now I'm feeling this cleanliness and this mind, body, soul connection that is in line with wherever I'm headed next on this path. And I think that internal listening or recognition, as I talked about last week, is built through praxis. It's built through action, intentional action. And that's why I saved the word of the week this week, which was Kairos, or Kairos, Kairos. I'm going to believe it's Kairos. And that's it's defined as ancient Greek word meaning the right, critical, or opportune moment for action. Unlike chronological time, chronos, Kairos refers to qualitative time, a moment of perfect timing or alignment. When we look at the story that I just shared, it's the openness that that moment could be at any time. And it's the patience to realize that it could be at any time and not needing to force it. And the more attuned you are, tuned in or observational you are, both inward and outward, I start to, as I tune in, I have that patience. And when those opportune moments present themselves to me, I'm non-hesitational because we go back to the human design chart. I'm very initiative. I'm forward moving. I'm action based, and it's so that if the action based is inherently in my genetics, what I've had to work to attain or better in skill over time has been the patience, which has come through the breath work, the meditation, all of those things. And baseball inherently is a very patient sport. And so now that those two things are culminating and alignment has been synergized between the action and the patience and the ability to look inward and outward and observation, I feel like I'm on a path of moments of Kairos one after the next. You know, I think people look at it and I think people look at it and they're like, "Oh, you know, you've been very lucky." Yes, I've been very lucky. I'm also grateful for that luck. I acknowledge that I'm lucky, and I acknowledge that I put myself in the right position to receive the luck. And for that reason, that's why I believe it keeps happening over and over again. It's the little things. It's the recognition of like going down the street and hitting all the green lights, you know, and not ignoring it, being like, oh, those are synchronicities within the everyday life. Those are just the opportune moments. You are driving at the right time that puts you through at the right moment, at the right speed that puts you through all of those green lights. And it's just continually one after another putting yourself in the situation to receive and live in that abundance. And always remaining in gratitude. You know, gratitude, of course, when you live in that space of gratitude, when I live in that space of gratitude, it just elevates the frequencies that run like around me and through me. And from that, I'm able to receive the luck and I'm able to receive the instinctual feeling of when a moment of Kairos is arising. When is the right moment? It's like, boom, okay, act, you know? And it's beautiful because there's no right and wrong. You're just continuing to learn. And the more that you create or complete that cycle of, you know, theory making action, the better your inner knowing becomes and the better you're able to listen to your instincts because that circle is being completed through trial and error and you're now willing to do the action over and over because you understand, I understand that the universe rewards effort. It rewards continual effort. It rewards relentless effort. And the reward is not always going to be monetary or tangible. The reward can be inherently inward, peace, happiness, those things that only you hold on to, only I hold on to. And those are the most beautiful gifts that you can be given. That was like 20 minutes of ripping, so maybe we just take a second to breathe it out for a moment. Just a big inhale through the nose, filling up the belly. Open mouth. In through the nose. Open mouth. Feels good. That feels good, not gonna lie. And just those breaths right there, if you look at the breathing pattern of anyone, you can begin to see patterns in the way they breathe and the way that they live their life. I know I do. And it first got brought to my attention through Thea in Bali when we got done with the session. I was like, hey, what did you notice? Like, I'm inquisitive. I want to know what you saw, what you felt as you worked. She's like, your ability to take in information, to fill up, your capacity is very big, but you have an inability to let go. You really want to control the exhale. I want to control the moment. I want to control the environment. And that's seen through the breath, and now I recognize it as I work with people one-on-one and myself. I'm better able to recognize in moments where I'm holding on to the breath and I might be holding on to something inherently that's happening in my life. And it's seen through the quality of the exhale that I'm able to present. And just right there, if you notice that, I don't expect you to go back and listen, but at the end of the second exhale right there, I really dropped out and was able to, like that auditory, you let it go. Shoulders drop, chest relax, face relax, muscles in the face relax. It's really that, that's where down regulation stems from, is the ability to really let it go. And now I notice that from that circle completing, when we go back to the idea of Saturn returning and making the action to no longer be reliant upon contingent plans to feel safe. I need to write that down. Reliant upon contingent plans to feel safe. That is what I've released. The ability in my exhale to release and let go is just much cleaner. It's much easier. I'm not holding on to whatever old patterns I was holding on to before inherently, because I've released that need, and I've done so through action. I had the theory of, something's closing, okay. And then the ability to listen. And then the making, which was somewhat of the action of telling this other person, hey, this isn't going to happen because I can't be contingent on these plans anymore. I can't close this circle and expect to move forward in the evolution of myself, if I'm not willing to let go and take this action, because as I fill up with more things or experiences or places or feelings or emotions or even growth forward, I have to be able to release what is no longer serving me. I have to be able to let that go. And if I'm not able to do that, I can't expect to take more of the good, of the light. And that's what I felt like in that meditation, as I always felt the light shining through my solar plexus, and all that I was holding on to, everything just poof, was gone, out, done. And it feels a clean, light, energetic feeling. And it's very beautiful. And I hope everyone is able to feel some type of light, energetic, somatic feeling, at any point in their life, because I feel it very strongly right now, and I know that it ebbs and flows, and I know that this is because there's a completion of a circle taking place, that I'm able to sit in this patient, relaxed space, and that's done through the work. I acknowledge that that's been obtained through all of the breath work and everything that I've done previously, and that I continue to do to put myself in the right place to receive the luck of the universe, of what's already, written out to happen. I'm just placing myself in the right position with my arms and solar plexus and chest wide open and saying, hey, I'll take whatever's good, whatever's bad, whatever's meant for me to learn and grow from. I'm open to it. Give it to me. I'll take it. And that's where I sit right now, is just that openness. But I need to write down that I no longer need the safety of contingent plans. It's a beautiful sentiment right there. And actually funny, because we're just ripping, I hadn't thought of a question for the next week. And so maybe a question for the next week. It'll come to me here in the next moments as I'm just opening the idea of it. The leaves on one of my plants that I got, it's all twisted up. Looks like a torpedo. And I didn't realize, because I've never really had plants before, that's how they, you get new leaves as they open up that way. So it's kind of cool because I was like, oh, is it wrapping itself inward? But no, it's inward to expand outward. Well, it looks like one of the other leaves might have got cut a little bit. I think that obviously was done by me. Oops. The word for this upcoming next week I found today because I told you I've been in this pocket of creation today. I just woke up feeling like, boom, all right, we're in it. It's the release. It's the release of those old habits, feelings, emotions, tendencies. It's that release that allows you to take in more of life, the light, energy, emotion, thought, creation, all of those things. And then you release again, and then you fill up, and it's that continual, just like the ocean tides come in and out. It would be in and out and in and out. And that's, you have to be able to release to take in. A tree has to grow its roots down deep into the ground in order to grow higher, taller, stronger. You have to be rooted. And then, I guess that goes back to the ground up fundamentals, which is, that's always stuck with me. Actually, yeah, that'll be the question for next week as we go forward for this upcoming week. The question is solely, what's your favorite thing that you observed this week? I'm going to make that a segment going forward, my favorite thing that I observed this week, or observations from the week. But yeah, let's start with that. What's your favorite observation from this week? Yeah, that was really fun. I changed the tone up a little bit because I heard it last week. I listened to myself and it felt very slow and sauntering. And that's not the type of energy that I'm sitting in, especially right now. Maybe that's the type of energy that I was in last week as I was working through whatever cycle this might have been and the closing of this pattern, of this habitual pattern that I've had for so long, this need for safety and contingent plans. And that's allowed me to open up and expand. And that's how I feel right now. And that's a very fun space to be in. And I don't know. There's no need to hold on to it or want to be like, oh, I need to stay in this space. I need to, hold on to this feeling because I have it right now. That's all that matters. It might go away in 10 seconds. I don't know. But I have it right now and it feels good. I'm going to ride this wave for as long as the universe allows me to. And as long as I can, I'm going to continue to do the things that put me in the place to receive luck or signs or synchronicities or whatever it may be, to listen and observe and tune in and recognize, okay, I'm going down the right path right now. Like the universe is providing me with signs that are saying, keep going. And sometimes they'll provide you with signs that's like, ooh, make a right turn here, make a left turn here, make a U-turn here, and then circle back, whatever it may be. But the ability to tune in and observe starts inwardly, and then I'm able to expand outward and observe outwardly in what's going on in the world. And from that inward-outward balance of observation, able to tune in, recognize, listen, make adjustments. Mind, body, and soul all connected and aligned on this hero's journey forward. And yeah, this has been my favorite and most fun episode for me to record personally since I started. So thanks to myself for continuing to stay diligent in the process of creation 1 week after the next. So as you move into next week, just become observational. What's your favorite thing that you observed or you observe throughout the week? Yeah. That concludes the thought experiment.